Welcome everyone to the class for TDS, TCS and advanced tax. We've been discussing all the TDS provisions in the previous class and today we'll continue with the one which are left and we'll take up your queries. TCS would be continued after that and if the time allows then advanced tax. Please come forward with all your concerns regarding this particular chapter because this particular chapter holds a great importance from the exam perspective also and practical perspective also. So just settle in and then we can begin with section 194M. We ended our last discussion on section 194J and I hope you have watched all the detailed recordings of these particular classes. These are quick revision classes whereby we'll be going from one provision to another. So just to quickly brush up what is the important point, what do you have to take care of and some important questions you have to understand for. So if you have any doubt, please feel free to reach out. Good morning, Mutku. Very good morning. So let everyone settle in and then we can start. So I hope you have studied what was taught in the previous class. And if there's any doubt, please share it on the chat box. Sangeeta, sure, if the time allows me or after the today's topic, I'll definitely take it up. Okay, so now we begin with section 194M. Welcome everyone. Okay. Now, to understand section 194M, it is very easy. But let me just first take you through the heading. What does the heading of this particular section says? If we read, payment made by individual or HUF for contract work by way of commission or brokerage or fees for professional services. Now, you will be like, ma'am, you've already studied commission, brokerage, and fees for professional services under respective section. Commission was studied under 194H. Contract was studied under 194C. Professional services was studied under 194J. Correct? Already it has been covered there. So why there's a separate section? First of all, this particular section only focus on payments which are made by individual and HF. So one thing is pretty much clear that the eligible deductor in this particular section would be individual or HUF. Correct. Then, ma'am, what is the variation between 194M and these respective sections? Now, let's start with understanding that part. So, if you take 194C, if you take 194H, and if you take 194J, let's just quickly understand who were not allowed. Who were the people who were not allowed, rather, I would say, who were not eligible or who were not liable to deduct tax under 194C, H, and J from individual and HUF perspective. One thing which was common in all was individuals and HUF who either did not have business or profession, or if they had business or profession, the turnover was less than 1 CR in the preceding financial year, or in case of profession, the gross receipts were less than 50 lakhs, right? They were also excluded from the liability of deducting tax under 194C, H, and J. And reason I told you, these are very common payments. If they will burden all the individuals and HUF with it, they would have to go through a lot of compliances, right? So to remove the burden of compliances, they removed these particular types of individuals or HUF from the eligible deductor list. So they were, even if making were contract payment or commission payment or professional fees payment, they were out of that scope, correct? Now, government was saying that the problem okay because suppose a salaried individual was paying can be paying someone professional fees of lakhs and lakhs and lakhs, but it cannot be recorded or it cannot be sourced out from TDS mechanism because 194 GMA salaried individual is not an eligible deductor, for example. So government came up with a solution. Let's bring a section whereby individual and HUF who are not liable to deduct tax under these respective section will deduct tax under section 194M. But इसके अलावा there is one more category on which individual and HUF were not deducting the tax under 194C and J. Can you guess which category? Yes, it was when they were making personal purpose payment. Though those were also excluded, right? Exclusion from these respective sections where personal purpose was also excluded. So even if I had a turnover of more than 1 crore in the preceding financial year, I was not liable to deduct tax in the present financial year if the payment was for personal purpose. I give an example of catering, I give an example of lawyer for 194J. I hope you can recall. So now all those individual and HUF or all those payments of individual and HUF which were out of the scope of 194C, H and J will now be in the scope of 194M. So पहले scope clear होना बहुत जरूरी है because otherwise overlapping would come that no ma'am वहाँ पे this can be covered or here it can be covered. Those all payments and those all individual and HUF who were excluded are covered under 194M. Second thing which you have to remember is 194J, yes, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about professional fees, we talk about royalty, we talk about technical services. But for 194M, we are only focusing on professional services, which is professional fees. Now, now eligible deductor clear and the type of payment is also clear under 194M. Does anyone has any doubt? यहाँ तक clear है, so we'll proceed. Okay, perfect. So now we'll proceed and we'll understand what are the other parts. First of all, any individual HUF who is not covered under 194C, H or J will deduct tax under 194M, and those payments which were not covered under 194C and J would be covered here. Secondly, the rate is here 5%. Obviously, the deductee has to be, or the payee has to be resident person. What else is required? The threshold limit. Threshold limit per payee per payer in a financial year here is more than 50 lakhs per annum. And this is for all types of payments. Above you will be like, ma'am, what do you mean by here? So now suppose a salaried individual is making payments to B, who is an interior decorator and come contractor. Okay. So the capacity of interior decorator, he's making payment for 30 lakhs. In the capacity of your contractual payments, he's making payment of say 25 lakhs. So here the liability to deduct TDS will arise. Why? Because all payments combined, this is professional, this is contractual. A single payer, a single pay, all payments combined in a financial year is crossing 50 lakhs and hence the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 5%. Also, again, since I was telling you that the idea to introduce this section was to cover those individuals HUF who are not covered otherwise. So, again, compliance burden will come. Right. Again, compliance burden will come unnecessary of deducting, depositing, quarterly return filing, issuing certificate. So this is also a particular and obtaining TAN obviously first mostly. So this is also a section where there is no TAN required. A person just have to deduct tax when the payments or the total types of payment under 194C, H and J crosses 50 lakhs. He has to just deduct the tax and deposit it within 30 days from the end of the month in which the tax is deducted. That's it. And he has to file while depositing one return challan come return form, and it's all done. So this particular section also does not require any TAN. But just remember that you have to first see the applicability of C, H, and J. If they are not applicable, then you have to see the applicability of 194M. A sequence, if the sections are going by after a sequence, that means there is a reason. There is a reason, okay? So if I take a particular example here, time of deduction is credit or payment, whichever is earlier. This will actually help you clear a lot of things. We have been given a case scenario of Ganesh, Rajesh, and Satish, who are making, and Dheeraj, who are making different types of payment. So let's understand the applicability from all perspectives. Mr. Ganesh carrying on retail business with a turnover of 2.5 crores in the financial year 22-23. So in the preceding financial year, he had a turnover of more than 1 crore. Okay, so we have to see the applicability of different sections. A, he made a contract payment for repair of his residential house for 5 lakhs, where the TDS has to be deducted. 194C, will it be covered? No. Why? Because the payment is for residential house. That means personal purpose. Had this been a contract payment for an office, then 194C would have been applicable. Why? Because he is an eligible deductor. So 194C definitely is not applicable. 194M is applicable? No, because the payment is not crossing. The threshold limit is not getting crossed 50 lakhs. So 194M is also not applicable. Similarly, payment of commission to Mr. Walish for business purposes, 80,000. Now, ISPE already 194H would have been applicable. Why? Because even if it's business or it's residential purpose does not matter, but the person who is the eligible deductor, Ganesh here, is liable to deduct under 194H because in the preceding financial year it has a turnover of more than 1 crore. Okay? So 194M की applicability देखना ही नहीं है. First you have to see C, J, H respectively. Then you have to see if that is not covered there, whether it would be covered under 194M or not. Now, Rajesh, a wholesale trader, whose turnover was 95 lakhs in the previous year, 22-23. Now, the moment the turnover is 95 lakhs, you're pretty sure that C, H, and J are not applicable. So you have to see all from the perspective of M. 194C, H, J are not applicable, so all from the perspective of M. So now, contract payment for reconstruction of residential house made during the period January to March. 20 lakhs in January, 15 lakhs in February, and 20 lakhs in March. Now, quickly tell me which provision would be applicable. Now, total comes to 55 lakhs. Yes. So, 194M would be applicable. A, he is not liable to deduct tax under 194C because he is not an eligible deductor, and also residential purpose, both the things. But here he has to deduct tax under on 55 lakhs. Reason being because it is exceeding the threshold limit. Anyone has any doubt यहाँ तक? Now quickly go through the other two examples and then we'll proceed next. Lucid Kala, anyone has any doubt? Uday? Perfect. So now let's proceed to the next section. Again, a very important section. See, when you will understand the reason behind introducing certain sections, you will understand that particular sections more clearly. Um, for a for a long time, there were sections which were conventional, 194C, H, J, and all. Now, for the past couple of years, especially in the past 5 years, TDS has evolved. TDS, TCS both have evolved, honestly, and both have evolved and from the perspective of the transactions happening in the economy or from the perspective of government's vision. 194N is one such section, students, where it has been introduced to be in vision of our government, which is digital India or cashless economy. So 194N is not a section unlike other sections where you are making an income or a payment and there is a source because of that particular income and the TDS is being deducted. Here, this particular section rather is for discouraging cash withdrawal or keeping a check on your cash withdrawal. Okay. So unlike other sections where I told you that any TDS deducted is a part of your income here, this is not applicable here. So now let's understand what this particular section says. Where would you be withdrawing cash from? Bank, corporate office, or post office. So these people would be the eligible deductor here. Bank, cooperative bank, or post office. They will deduct TDS of any person, be it resident or non-resident. Rate pe I'll come. In general, the rate is 2%. 2% of what? I'll let you know. So when any person withdraws cash for more than 1 crore, so the threshold limit here comes to be more than 1 crore. Withdraws cash for more than 1 crore from a single bank or a cooperative society or a post office. Total in the sense of if suppose I'm talking about a bank, you have to see it in aggregate for all accounts. Aggregate for all accounts. Okay? For more than 1 crore in a year, then the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 2%, not 2% of excess. Abhi tak, wherever you studied all the sections of TDS, where the moment it hit the threshold limit, you used to deduct the tax on the entire amount. So if suppose 30,000 is the threshold limit, payment is of 40,000, you deduct the tax on the entire 40, not on 10. But here, when the threshold limit would cross, you have to deduct the tax on the excess amount. So suppose the cash withdrawal is of 1 crore 10 lakhs, you will deduct the TDS on for 2% of 10 lakhs, not 2% of 1 crore and 10 lakhs. So 2% of 10 lakhs by TDS would be deducted. The moment the cash withdrawal crosses a certain limit, which is 1 crore, the amount which will come in your hand would be after that 2%. After that 2%. Simple. But यहाँ पे there is one more provision from the perspective of non-file. So, and this 1 crore limit is actually 3 crore when the recipient, that is the person who is withdrawing, is a cooperative society. This amendment came very recently, which is from this Finance Act only. So be prepared. It can come as a question. Now the question is, there is another point here for non-filers. Non-filers, matlab, if the person who is withdrawing the amount has not filed the return for last 3 years. Last 3 years कौन से हुए? In the year in जिसका filing of return का date has been passed. So the person has not filed the return for the last 3 years, the due date of which has already been passed, and still he's withdrawing so much of high amount, then the government has made the rule more strict for them. Because the government is thinking that why a person would be withdrawing so much of a high amount when he's not even filing the return. So that's why they have made the rule very strict for them. So if a person who's withdrawing is a non-filer, instead of 1 crore, the TDS would be starting deducting from the point where the cash withdrawal exceeds 20 lakh. So the triggering point would not be 1 crore, the triggering point would be 20 lakhs. This is one disadvantage. Second disadvantage is the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 2%. Once the cash withdrawal is more than 20 lakhs up to 1 crore, it will be deducted at the rate of 2%. The moment the cash withdrawal hits more than 1 crore, the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 5%. The TDS would be deducted at the rate of 5%. For example, let's take an example of a non-filer. On 1st July 2024, a cash withdrawn by non-filer is 10 lakhs. Aggregate TDS, okay? 10 lakhs. Will as a bank deduct TDS? No, because 10 lakhs here, no TDS is required. Then suppose on 15th of August, 15th of September 2024, cash withdrawn is 35 lakhs. Total हो गया 45 lakhs. Will the TDS would be deducted? Yes, because this person is non-filer. Had this person be a normal person, which we discussed earlier, no TDS would be deducted. So here on excess amount, which is 25 lakhs, with 2% would be deducted, which is 50,000. This point is clear? Excess of 20 lakhs with 25 lakhs with 2% would be deducted. Then say 16th of October, another 25 lakhs are withdrawn. Aggregate comes to 70 lakhs. So on the fresh 25 lakhs, again 2% would be deducted, again 50,000. Now suppose on 15th of December, another 45 lakhs are withdrawn. Now the total process, aggregate process 1 crore 15 lakhs. So what did I tell you? Up to cash withdrawal of 1 crore, TDS would be deducted at 2%, and more than 1 crore by 5%. So now both the rates would be applicable on 30 lakhs, that is because 70 was withdrawn up till here. On 30 lakhs, TDS would be deducted at the rate of 2%, which is 15,000. And on 15 lakhs, it would be deducted at the rate of 5%. At the rate of 5%. Sorry, 6. Oh, sorry. 15,000 to लिखूंगा मैं फिर से 60,000 हो जाएगा ना ये तो. So total 135. Got it? So this is how the operation of 194N works. If I quickly see the example, is there any doubt? Because this is a critical part and the question can come from this also. Question may it would be given to you that the person is non-filer. They will not say that deduct the TDS and so did. They will just clearly say that deduct the tax on, you have to see first of all which section, and question would be like that, okay, the person has not filed the return for last 5 years. You will not get confused कि ma'am ने तो कहा था 3 years का criteria. Obviously 5 years mean that 3 years are covered, okay? So you have to take it like that very smartly. Seat color, is it clear? Because we did it on 2% and 5%. Now suppose again another withdrawal comes in January of say 30 lakhs. Now the aggregate is 145, that does not matter, but any additional withdrawal over and above 1 crore will attract the TDS of 5%. 1,50,000. So 30 lakhs, if he'll go to withdraw 30 lakhs, he'll get 30 lakhs minus 1,50,000. Had it been a case of normal person, then the TDS would be attracted from 15 December onwards only, and that too at the rate of 2%. Pratima, I hope your question is also answered. March 24 wala third one, or to aggregate amount. Seetkala, the example I have taken up. See, the moment it crosses the threshold limit, you have to deduct the tax on the excess amount. when it is cross 20 lakhs, whatever the excess withdrawal is happening over and above 20 lakhs, you have to deduct tax. Okay. And the moment it crosses 1 crore, again on the excess, you have to deduct 5%. Nisha, 3 year, 5 years का return file नहीं किया, that means 3 years का नहीं file किया, so he's a defaulter. He's a non-filer. Vivo V20, first of all, please put in your name. We have deducted the TDS on the excess amount only. Why I have written aggregate ka list so that we know how much total amount has been withdrawn till date or till that particular moment to see whether the TDS is deducted or not, whether the TDS is attracted or not. In 15 December wala case, the man went to withdraw 45 lakhs only, suppose. But the moment you withdraw 45 lakhs, the total aggregate withdrawal hit to 1 crore 15 lakhs. Now the question is how much TDS has to be deducted. Last withdrawal was aggregating to 70 lakhs. That means 30 lakhs to make it to 1 crore 30 lakhs, where TDS would be attracted at 2%. And on the next 50 lakhs, the moment the withdrawal crosses 1 crore, that is in this particular transaction only, the TDS would be deducted at the rate of 5%. In this 45, first 30 would be consumed till 1 crore and then 15 would be for 5%. I cannot directly deduct tax at 45 lakhs ka 5%. Why? Because we have to see first the person, because the case says the aggregate up to 1 crore will attract TDS of 2%. The aggregate amount would, when from 20 lakhs to 1 crore, would attract the TDS rate of 2%. Is it now clear? Who had a doubt here? Sangeeta? Cooperative society में 3 crores है. Mahadev, shall we proceed? You want to take note of this? You can take note of this, not a problem. Okay, but one thing you have to remember here are your one thing which you have to clearly remember here are the non-applicability. Non-applicability matlab, even if a person is withdrawing more than 1 crore, TDS would not be attracted. TDS would not be attracted. Who are those people? First is government. So when the government obviously is making any cash withdrawals, no TDS would be deducted from for them. This is from the perspective of recipient, okay? Second, any banking company or any post office or any cooperative banks, if they are withdrawing more than 1 crore, banks pay, again, not applicable because it's very common that there would be a lot of cash withdrawals. Secondly, RBI कि कोई correspondent of the banking company, cooperative societies, etc. not applicable. White label ATM operators. So white label ATM operators क्या होते हैं? इसका एक common example है this India payments करके क्या होता है? Most of the banks maintain their ATM, correct? But sometimes the ATM is maintained by third party. If sometimes the ATM is in any other area or it is at a place where it is difficult for the bank to regulate it, so they give the contract to third parties. So those are white label ATM operators. Now there are a lot of types of ATM operators: brown label, black label. We're only talking about white label, those who directly work with bank. So for them, obviously, since they're operating the ATMs, they see how much cash has to be done, when time it is to be done, all the things they take care of. So since they are actually into operating the ATM, they would require a lot of cash. So on them, on them when they are making cash withdrawal, TDS is not applicable. TDS is not applicable. उसके अलावा the central government has notified certain types of person on them the TDS is not applicable, like people who are working in mandi, APMCs, forex dealers, etc., etc., which is not, I think the guideline, the notification is not applicable here. I can see is not given to you, but otherwise, forex dealers, APMCs, they are also out of the scope. Okay, now these were all the TDS provision sections. Now we'll hurry up and brush up and understand the other provisions in respect to TDS. Yeah. So the first section is section 196, which says in general एक ही section बना दिया है कि government से कभी TDS, government payments को कभी TDS नहीं deduct करना. RBI, certain mutual funds या certain corporations which are established through central acts, उन सब पे कभी TDS would not be deducted. Never it would be deducted. What is section 197 and section 197A? Now इसको quickly हम ध्यान से quickly I'll make you revise. So quickly coming to section 197, what does section 197 say and what does section 197A say? Do not get confused. This may be बहुत simple है. Okay. अब suppose करो guys, think yourself as a deductive, as the recipient of the payment or the payee. You may not have taxable income or you may have losses, but still tax is deducted. Then you have to wait for the entire year to get that money after filing the return. Correct? Ab suppose karo, I am a contractor. Okay, I have certain losses already. Now suppose if you will deduct my TDS unnecessarily, what will happen? I have to go to the I have to wait for the return to file, get my refund because it is a credit, so I have to get a refund. So the government came up with two options. One is option under section 197 and 197A, another section. Now 197 is not a self-regulated section. This section says lower deduction of tax. अब इसमें क्या होता है? You will go to the AO. Assessing officer के पास you will go and you will tell the assessing officer that, sir, I don't have taxable income. See my previous record, see my current year records. I will never have a taxable income in coming 2-3 years. So please, can you give me a certificate which I can give to the deductor that please don't deduct my tax because I do not have that much taxable income. Or you can give me a certificate which complies a lower rate. So instead of suppose say 10%, they have to deduct a tax at say 1.34%, any rate, which the AO will work upon. So if the AO is satisfied, he will issue you a certificate. You have to think yourself as a payee here. He will issue you a certificate, and that certificate you can give to the deductor. That's it. See, AO has given me the certificate under section 197. You have to deduct tax as per so and so rate. So certificate पे clearly लिखा होगा at what rate the tax has to be deducted. So that's why it's written lower deduction. It can be a no deduction certificate also, but it can be a lower rate certificate also. So what at what rate the tax has to be deducted, on what this types of payments this particular certificate gets applicable, what is the validity of certificate, everything would be written on the certificate which is issued. This is when the AO has to be satisfied to give you that certificate. But suppose, is there any self-declaration method? Yes. Self-declaration matlab, I don't have to go to AO, but I just have to give a form, fill a form and give it to the deductor that take this form as a declaration and assure yourself that I don't have taxable income or taxes and don't deduct tax. And the deductor will take that form, file it with the details, would be filed with the TDS return, and all things would be clear. So now this self-declaration form comes under either Form 15G or Form 15H. Now you will ask that what is the difference between 15G and 15H? Before going to that, you have to understand that 197A is not applicable for all types of payments. Self-declaration only works under 192A, 193, 194A, interest, 194D. This is insurance commission, 194DA, 194I, and 194K. Only for these types of income, if you're receiving under these particular types of sections, then only you can give the self-declaration. Self-declaration would be given to whom? Would be given to the deductor. यहाँ पे तो AO के पास पहले जाओगे, then you will give it to the deductor. This is a self-declaration in Form 15G or 15H. 15G is for anyone, but senior citizen. 15H is filed by a resident senior citizen. 15G and 15H is filed respectively by any individual, on 15H only by resident senior citizen. Next question is, when can you file? ऐसा तो नहीं है, I can always tell don't deduct the tax. No. You have to have a certain income or not have a certain income. So 15G can be only be filed when the income for which you're filing. Suppose I have to understand myself as the landlord. I'm giving 194I to the tenant who has to deduct my tax. Okay? Usko I will give Form 15G and I will tell that my income, which is the rental income in this case, so the income on which the tax is required to be deducted, that is less than basic exemption limit, and my total income is also less than basic exemption limit. So the income for which I'm filing, that is also less than basic exemption limit, and the total income is also less than basic exemption limit, then only Form 15G can be filed. For example, the rent here is 2,10,000, okay? And the total income is, suppose I have other income of 1 lakh and I have deductions of 50,000. So the total income is coming to 2,60,000. And if I'm filing it as per the old scheme, I cannot file Form 15G. Why? Because the income for which I'm filing is less than basic exemption limit, but my total income is crossing basic exemption limit. Now, suppose had this been 2,40,000, then I would have filed Form 15G. Why? Because the income for which I'm filing is also less than basic exemption limit and my total income is also less than basic exemption limit. Now, suppose the rent would have been 2,90,000. First of all, 240 पे तो वैसे TDS काटते हैं, yeah, otherwise तो आता भी नहीं. So the rent is supposed 2,90,000, huh? 290 पे I cannot file because the income is crossing basic exemption limit. The income is crossing basic exemption limit. So I cannot file Form 15G. But let's take an example of interest. Interest पे TDS कब करता है? 40,000 से ज़्यादा. I go to bank and I tell them my interest for the year obviously is suppose 2 lakhs. And now technically bank has to deduct tax. And my total income is 4 lakhs. Can I file Form 15G? No. But suppose my total income would have been 2,80,000. Can I file Form 15G? No. Now suppose my total income is just 2,20,000. Can I file for 15G? Yes. No, yes, it is obviously on self-declaration and estimation basis. If you give a wrong information, prosecution proceedings can go against you. Okay. But resident senior citizen, they have given some relaxation. The relaxation to resident senior citizen is given in the form of that they can file Form 15G, 15H if the tax liability is nil due to, say, rebate, or the tax liability is nil, the final tax payable is nil. I'm not talking about the credits, but due to rebate also. अब यहाँ पे क्या होता है, basic exemption limit is the moment it crosses basic exemption limit, you cannot file. But यहाँ पे the moment it crosses basic exemption limit, you know, you have a concept of rebate. you can file Form 15S. You can file Form 15S. So there is this benefit which is given to resident senior citizen. Suppose interest के केस में लेते हैं, interest is 2 lakh, total income is say 4,50,000. But this person will get a rebate definitely, and the tax liability would be nil. He can file the return. Even if up to an income of 490, he can file that particular form of 15H. Got it? एक बारी go through form 15G, 15H and 197A, and if there's any doubt, let me know. Then we'll proceed with the provisions of 206AB and AA. Got it? Shall we proceed? Now, the next provision which we are going to discuss is the provisions regarding 206AA and 206AB. 206AA is the most simplest provision. The deductor has to obtain PAN of the deductee. But if the deductee does not give PAN, then what will happen? Why would deductee not give PAN? He might not want the information to be disclosed to the income tax department. He might not give PAN, right? So what is the solution here? So 206AA gives the right to the deductor that if the PAN is not available, or not given to you, then deduct the tax either at the rate of that particular section or 20%, whichever is higher. So suppose if I'm talking about deducting tax under section 194J, so I will deduct the tax at 20% if the PAN is not given to me. If I'm talking about deducting tax under 194C, I will deduct the tax under 20% if PAN is not given to me. But if suppose the tax has to be deducted under 194B, which is 30%, I will deduct the tax at 30% because that rate of section is particularly higher. So, उसके अलावा there is an exception that 194O के लिए 194Q के लिए the rate instead of 20% it is 5%, which you can just remember. But otherwise, the question can come. I remember when we were doing 194 IB, I told you that the PAN is not provided, 20% has to be deducted. But because of the provision of 194 IB, the maximum tax required to be deducted on rent would be last month rent, if you remember, correct? So this is 206AA. Next is 206AB. Now this is a comparatively very new section as compared to AA. AA is about PAN not provided 20%. AB is again particularly for non-filers. First of all, these non-filers of ITR. These non-filers are different from what we just discussed under 194N. वो अलग है, ये अलग है. 194N is different. वहाँ पे जो non-filers of ITR in last 3 years का they have not filed, you have to deduct tax at the higher rate. This is different. This is a blanket section applicable for most of the particular sections. 206AB says if your deductee is a non-filer of ITR, that means he has not filed the ITR or return of income, whatever you want to say. The due date has passed and for the year for which he has not filed the ITR. For the year for which he has not filed the ITR. for that particular year, the credit, the TDS or TCS credit in his account is 50,000 or more in that previous year for which he has not filed the return, then he is a non-filer, he's a specified person, and you have to deduct tax at a higher rate. Now you will think first, ki, ma'am, how will we as a deductor know whether the person is a non-filer or not? See, practical life में students क्या होता है? There is a utility. You have to go to the traces portal. There is a utility. You just have to put the PAN number of the person, and you will get to know whether he is a defaulter as per 206 AB or not. If he's a defaulter, his name would come here, and then you have to deduct tax either at the rate of the section, twice the rate of the section, or 5%, whichever is higher. Twice the rate or 5%, whichever is higher. So the moment his name comes under that defaulter list, you have to deduct the tax either at the twice the rate or 5%, whichever is higher. Why this provision came? Because again, to promote people to file the return. Because think if someone has a credit of 50,000 of tax and he has still not filed the return to claim it, that means he might be concealing something, he might be misrepresenting something, or he might not want to show you. So that's why government came up with a corresponding provision in TDS that if the person is non-filer, he has not filed the return for a specified previous year, and the due date has passed, and the TDS for that particular year was more than 50,000 or 50,000 or more rather, then he's a specified person, he's a defaulter, and you have to deduct tax at twice the rate of 5%, whichever is higher. Now the question would be, suppose I have to deduct TDS under 194C of a person. He's a non-filer. I will deduct tax at the rate of 5%. I have to deduct TDS under 194J. He's a non-filer, but I will deduct the tax at the rate of 20%, twice the rate of that section. Okay, this is applicable even for 197A if they are non-filer. Just 1 second. But yes, this does not apply to certain sections. But what are those sections? You have to deduct TDS under these particular section. You will not see the provisions of 206 AB. One is 192. So, yani employer, when deducting TDS, does not have to see the provisions of 206 AB. 192A, from your perspective, 194B, 194IA, 194M, 194N, IB. इन सब के लिए ये provisions are not applicable. Which provision? 206 AB provisions. There are more, but these are the sections which we discussed about. And same ऐसे corresponding sections are there in your TCS also, non-filer के and no bank के. Last are the due dates. Yes, due dates पे question आ सकता है. Due dates of deposit. The tax, जो आपने tax काटा as a deductor, at what time, till what time you have to deposit? The tax has to be deposited by 7th of next month. So if I've deducted the tax in the month of April, I have to deposit by 7th May. If I've deducted the tax in the month of July, I have to deposit all the taxes which I've deducted under different sections. For everyone, lump sum deposit has to be made by 7th of, for July, 7th of August. But if I've deducted the tax in the month of March, it becomes 30th April. TDS में होता है, TCS में ये नहीं होता. What are the forms which you have to remember? So you have to then, after depositing the tax, you have to file the return quarterly. File the return quarterly. Quarterly. So for April to June quarter, it is 31st July, the due date. For July to September quarter, 31st October, correct. October to December quarter, 31st January. And for January to March quarter, 31st May. Not 30th April, 31st May. So वैसे it is 30th, the last of the next month immediately following the quarter, but for January to March, it is 31st May. If you will not file the return timely, there would be a fee under section 234E, which is of 200 per day for each day of default. There's penalty also between 10,000 to 1 lakh, which you don't have to remember, but this you have to remember. And the due dates you have to clearly remember. Then after deduction, suppose you did not deposit the tax by the due dates. So there is late deposit, or you did not deduct the tax timely. You had to deduct the tax at the time of credit, you deducted the tax at the time of payment. Or you had to deduct the tax at the time of payment, you deducted the tax at the time of credit. As per the provisions, you have not deducted the tax. What are the repercussions? So to ensure that A, you do timely deduction, and after deduction, you do timely deposit, there are interest repercussions. That means if you will not deduct the tax, there is a repercussion. If you will not deposit the tax after deducting it, there is a repercussion. So the repercussion is in the form of interest, which is given under section 201, subsection 1A. The interest is for late deduction. It is 1% per month or part of the month. And for late deposit, it is again late deposit ka rate zyada hai because government says you have money and still you did not deposit it. So what money in the sense of by deducting it. So 1.5% per month or part of the month. But ये शुरू कब से होगा? Late deduction would start from the due date of deduction. From date of deduction to actual date of deposit. Actual date of deduction. So suppose you had to deduct the TDS on 6th of June. You deducted the TDS on 10th of July. So 6th of June से 10th of July 2 months हो गए. अब कैसे? Because 6th June से 6th July 1 month and next 4 days become part of the month. So 1% for per month or part of the month. So 1% into 2 the deduction का interest लगेगा. And for late deposit, it is 1.5%, but it actually starts again from the actual date of deduction. यहाँ पे अब आप ये नहीं देखोगे लेट डिपॉजिट के केस में यू विल नॉट आर्ग्यू कि मैम 7th ऑफ द नेक्स्ट मंथ का तो टाइमलाइन मिल जाए. नो, 7th of the next month is general timeline when you're doing it right. But if you're not doing it right, it is actual date of deduction से actual date of deposit. Most of the people come and argue कि मैम it should start from 7th of the next month ना timely deposit. No, because 7th का due date था. नहीं, actual date से deduct जहां आपने late deposit करा, the wherever you started late deposit, the interest deduction would start from the actual date of deduction. The interest repercussion will start from the actual date of deduction to its actual deposit. So these are small points which can come as a small question or a case scenario based question. So you have to not ignore it. Just give a good read. एक बारी quickly go through them, and if you have any doubt, just let me know. Sorry for the handwriting. Sorted. Shall we proceed? Correct, Sheetala, exactly what here I told you. The late deposit के केस में the interest start from the actual date of deduction. वहां पे कोई seventh of the next month का concept नहीं लगेगा. You will not suppose even if you have deducted it timely, but you not deposited timely, then TDS would be applicable from the actual date of deduction. So Sangeeta, you have to provide that self-declaration form under 15G and 15H before the actual due date of deduction so that they can take care of it. Otherwise, they cannot reverse it otherwise. Only Krishna, if the contractor payments is more than 50 lakhs, suppose, you have to see first whether the individual is required to deduct tax under 194C or not, in the sense of he's eligible deductor or not. If he's an eligible deductor, he will deduct the tax under 194C. If he's not an eligible deductor, he will deduct the tax under 194M. Also, suppose personal purpose payment hai, but he's an eligible deductor, he will not deduct the tax under 194C, but he will deduct the tax under 194M. So take 1 minute part and then we'll move to TCS quickly. किसी को और कोई डाउट है अंडर TDS in general, please feel free to discuss. Oh, yes, after filing the return, they have to issue the certificate also, which is 15th of which has to be issued within 15 days from the due date of filing the returns. Advanced tax se pehle we will do TDS, TCS, and then we'll come to advanced tax. सिंपल है TCS, इसमें कोई ऐसे टेंशन वाली बात नहीं. अब बस यहाँ पे नॉमेनक्लेचर थोड़े डिफरेंट हो जाएंगे. सो फॉर अ टाइम बीइंग क्लियर द डिडक्टर कॉन्सेप्ट, डिडक्टिव कॉन्सेप्ट, यहाँ पे कलेक्टिव कॉन्सेप्ट आ जाएगा. Ineligible deduction, sorry, Unikrishnan, my question, your question is not clear. So now, students, the concept of TCS is a sort of different concept. First of all, TDS was there for a long time. TCS was introduced, I think, in the early 2000 or the late 90s, if I'm not wrong. But anyway, why it was introduced? See, it was very difficult for government to have the information just from certain payments perspective. There were high value transactions still going on, or there were certain transactions or certain spendings which were still going on. So the government wanted to attract the knowledge or the data from the spendings criteria, that who is spending so much, or who is making certain types of pay, payments or certain types of collections so much. So they came up with the concept of TCS. Unlike TDS, which is under different sections of 192 to 195, and there are different sections, TCS has just one section, but with different subsections or different types of collections. 206C is the main section which has major provisions of tax collection at source. Each subsection, 260 subsection 1, subsection 1H, and so on, gives you the detail of what particular TCS collection is. Now, here what will happen? Instead of deductor deductee, here the person would be collector collectee. Now, suppose Mr. A sold certain goods to Mr. B. Now, if the TDS mechanism are there applicable on such collection of income, collection of payment, I'll not even use the word income, certain collection, then Mr. A as a collector has to collect an additional amount as TCS and additional amount as TCS from the collector himself. Now, suppose on the sale of goods he made was of suppose of 5 lakhs. It was of 5 lakhs. Now, if just 1 second. So he sold the goods of 5 lakhs. Technically, he will collect the payment of 5 lakhs, right? So suppose TCS mechanism are applicable, then on 5 lakhs, Mr. A is liable to collect extra 1% or whatever the rate that particular TCS mechanism says over and above the sale which has been made, which is of suppose 5,000. So he is collecting an additional amount from the person as tax collection. Now, the question is all the liability is on the TCS compliances, the SARA liability is on the collector because A, he has to ensure the collection. See, collecting point of view, से अभी यहाँ पे deducting point को हटा दो. Collecting मतलब the person who is collecting the payment will collect extra. So he will first ensure that the TCS is collected. Then he will ensure that the TCS is deposited. Then he will file the return. And then he will also issue the certificate to the person that I have filed the return and I have given the tax credit to you. So who will get the tax credit of this 5,000? Mr. B, because he is paying from his pocket an additional amount to deposit as tax in his name with the government. Okay? So this 5,000 becomes the tax collection credit or TCS credit for Mr. B. So this TCS is not Tata Consultancy Services. This TCS is tax collection at source. This entire mechanism is called tax collection at source. So Mr. A, his sales is of 5 lakhs and the money which he has received is also 5 lakhs. The remaining 5,000 extra which he has received has to be deposited to the government. So this would be TCS payable to the government. And once he deposited to the government, he's off his duties and he has to file the returns. And for Mr. B, this extra 5,000 which he is given is TCS receivable, which he will set off as a credit while filing the return. So unlike where I was talking about the source income concept, here the concept is that if you're making certain spendings or making certain purchases, you have to give certain additional amount. पहले TCS mechanism clear हुआ, then we'll go to different types of TCS sections or TCS provisions. चले? चलो, great. Yes, you can say sort of correctly, but better to not just confuse and compare the both situations, Pooja, okay? Interestingly, TDS आप कभी भी GST component में नहीं काटते. But here TCS is all about considerations received, etc. So it is collected on the amount including GST. It is collected on the amount including GST because here the concept of consideration works. Okay. So the first provision of TCS is sale of certain goods. 206C subsection 1 may TCS would be collected if certain goods are sold. So if you are a seller of certain goods, you have to collect TCS. You have to collect TCS. Now, what are those certain goods? The certain goods are on your screen: alcoholic liquor, tendu leaves, timber produced from forest leaves or for otherwise, forest produce, scrap, mineral being coal or lignite or iron ore. सबका rate, if you can see, is अलग अलग. So if you are selling alcoholic liquor, you have to collect TCS at the rate of 1%. If you're selling tendu leaves are BD leaves, you have to collect the TCS at the rate of 5%. If you are basically into timber forest produce, you have to collect the TCS at the rate of 2.5%. Scrap, if you're selling 1%. Minerals, coal or ignite or iron ore, 1%. Now the question is, why, ma'am? So simple hai, because this particular produces, if you see, there is a lot of segregated unorganized market. So the government came up with the concept, and there are large sellers also. There are small buyers, but large sellers. So let's collect TCS because scrap ke liye, there are small buyers. Tenu leaves ke liye, there are small buyers. So let collect TCS from them to understand how such particular commodities are being dealt in the economy. Now you must be thinking, okay, ma'am, if we go and purchase alcohol, we never, or if we go and purchase scrap, we never pay TCS. TCS is not collected from them. Yes, you are correctly. Now all your questions comes in regarding to eligible collector, eligible collectee, and other details. So here, the seller obviously is the eligible collector who has to collect it, but also same. Every person has to, or any person has to collect the tax except individual and HUF. Why? Why? Same. Why? Because again, collection of TCS requires the same degree of compliances. So individual and HUF will collect tax only if in the preceding financial year they have turnover of more than 1 crore or gross receipts of more than 50 lakhs. Because अब आपको सोचना है from the perspective of compliances, from the perspective of a person who would be collecting all these, okay? So the seller would be again any person, but not individual and HUF. Individual and HUF will collect TCS only if in the preceding financial year they have a turnover of more than 1 crore or gross receipts of more than 50 lakhs in case of profession. Buyer कौन होगा? Buyer collecting कौन होगा? Buyer. Obviously, the person who is buying, unse you have to collect 1%, 2.5% or 5% as the case may be extra. But obviously buyer से exclude हो गया मेरा एक PSU, एक सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से I will not collect tax, PSU से I will not collect tax, हाई कमीशन से I will not collect tax. हाई कमीशन मतलब diplomats and clubs से I will not collect tax in this particular payment. And also person who are purchasing the goods for personal consumption. Personal consumption. उनसे भी I will not collect tax. So, for example, if I go and purchase alcohol, no one collects TCS from me because I am out of the list of not applicable buyer. I am in the list of not applicable buyer. Okay, I am out of the list of the legitimate or eligible buyer. So, since I am using the goods for personal consumption, they will not collect the TCS from me, number one. Number two, you have to remember here is, so suppose let's take an example of alcohol only. So when you go and purchase alcohol, no one is taking TCS from you because you are purchasing that alcohol for personal consumption. Another thing which has been given in this particular section, which is 206C subsection 1, is that if a person, this is based on declaration, Form 27C. You don't have to remember it, just for your information. If a person who purchases this particular commodity, any of these particular commodities, give you a declaration that I am purchasing this commodity for the purpose of further production, or manufacturing, then also no TCS is attracted. But that person has to give you a declaration. See, personal consumption, I don't have to give you a declaration. But otherwise, if I'm purchasing a commodity for further production, I have to give a declaration. Now the question comes from how simple it is. Let's take an example of alcohol only. If I'm purchasing alcohol for my personal consumption, no TCS. If I'm purchasing alcohol for making sanitizers में alcohol use होता है, and I give you a declaration that I will be using this for making your further commodity, which is alcohol, then you will not collect TCS. So, ma'am, TCS collect कैसे होगा? The brewery, the place where alcohol is made, if they are selling it to the wholesalers, so wholesalers they will collect TCS. Wholesalers they will collect the TCS, or if they are selling it to restaurants, they will collect TCS from there. They will collect TCS from them. Okay. So this is the concept, main items which you have to remember on your 206C subsection 1. But you will ask, ma'am, what is the threshold limit? यहाँ पे कोई threshold limit. Even if the sale is made of, suppose, 1,000 rupees, you have to collect tax at the rate of 1%, 5%, or 2.5%, as the case may be. Second thing you have to remember here is that the tax has to be collected at the time of debit or receipt, whichever is earlier. पहले क्या होता था, credit or payment, वो deduction, वो concept उल्टा है, उसका mirror concept है. So debit or receipt, whichever is earlier. And it would not be collected from any person who is using the goods for further production. Scrap case में याद रखना, scrap is anything which cannot be used as such. कोई शिप टूट गई, उसका एकदम से मैकेनिकल प्रोसेसिंग जो रस्ट वाला पार्ट निकला, दैट इज स्क्रैप. रद्दी को यू विल नॉट से स्क्रैप बिकॉज फर्स्ट रद्दी इज नॉट फ्रॉम any manufacturing process, it has been resulted, it can be used as such. So scrap is anything which cannot be used as such. Okay, बस इसी बेस पे ये क्वेश्चंस आएंगे यहाँ पे. Next is not very common, parking lot, toll plaza, or mine query. But I'll just tell you, this is not applicable for us in very common life. People who you go to parking, you give them the parking price. So we are not talking about that. The parking area generally are taken on lease by certain companies. Okay? And then they recover through us the amount through parkings. Okay? So the parking area which is there probably in some public ground or next to a mall or in basement or anywhere. So people take that area on lease and then they maintain it. The person who has taken on lease and the person who has given the lease, वहाँ पे TCS mechanism है. It's not a TCS mechanism between you going to parking or you paying toll. It's between the person who has taken that area on lease and would be using it as a parking lot. So the person who will collect the payment, the person who has given it on lease. So यहाँ पे simple आ जाएगा, who would be the collector? The person who has granted the lease. Who would be the collectee? The person who has taken that lease or license or lessee. Okay? The rate is here 2%. There is no TCS when it comes to PSU. No time, no monetary limit is there. Debit or receipt, whichever is earlier. So 2% pay you have to collect the tax. Simple, but it does not come very common. Next is 206C subsection 1F. There is no threshold limit for 206C subsection 1 also. Subsection 1F is common. इसमें क्या है? This is also simple. यहाँ पे it talks about sale of motor vehicles exceeding 10 lakhs. So if a person is selling motor vehicles, he has to collect TCS at the rate of 1%. But what are the limits here? So यहाँ पे इसको हम ऐसे याद करते हैं, बहुत इजी है. मोटर व्हीकल्स में दो टाइप्स की सेल होती है guys. एक होता है B2B and one is B2C. What is B2B, B2C? B2B means either from the, let's take an example of Toyota to the wholesaler, Toyota to the wholesaler, which is your authorized dealers, right? You don't, if you want to buy a car, you don't go to Toyota ka manufacturing plant, you go to showrooms who are their authorized dealers, right? Another is authorized dealer to the customer, right? B2B, B2C. So TCS किस पे लगेगा? TCS is applicable on B2C under section 206C subsection 1F. It says on retail sales, not on wholesale sales. So wholesale sale पे 206C subsection 1F is not applicable. B2C pay, it would be applicable at the rate of 1% if the car which is being sold, the motor vehicle which is being sold exceeds 10 lakh. Exceeds 10 lakh. If the motor vehicle which is being sold, उसका अगर value 10 lakh से ज़्यादा है, तो they will collect TCS from you at the rate of 1%. Now you will say कि मैम motor vehicle में तो बहुत सारा costing आता है, off-road price, ex showroom price, etc. etc. So final consideration पे they will collect from you 1%, all taxes included. उसके बाद they will collect additional 1% from you at the time of payment or at the time of collection. So अभी तक हमने जितने TCS सेक्शन पढ़े, 1F is a section where it has threshold limit. So at the time of collection. अब second hand sale पे भी होगा. Yes, suppose I got BMW, now I'm selling it to you. I will collect TCS from you if I'm selling it for more than 10 lakhs. Yes. But यहाँ पे भी certain exceptions है. यहाँ पे seller कौन होगा? Any person except individual and HF, and individual and HF would be only covered when in the preceding financial year they have turnover of more than 1 crore or gross receipts for more than 50 lakhs. Buyer कौन होगा? Any person. But central government, if they are buying, or state government, if they are buying the motor vehicle, no TCS from them. Embassies buying motor vehicle, no TCS from them. High courts buying motor vehicle, no TCS from them. And any dealer of motor vehicle, no TCS from them. Or any company which is engaged in carrying passengers, no TCS from them. Any TSU, sorry. Okay. So 1F the clear. Now we move to 1G and 1H, which are the two most important section left under TCS. But I will not start it immediately because they are the very important one. Let's take quickly some break. Up till now, we have done all the provisions of TDS 194M, N, miscellaneous provisions of TDS, and introduction of TCS, and three subsections of TCS. So quickly take a break. We'll come back and we'll do the remaining sections of TCS. Okay. So welcome back after the break, everyone. And we have been understanding the provisions of TCS now. Before we proceed, does anyone has doubt in till subsection 1F? Because actually 1G and 1H are one of the most important sections of TCS, which we'll be doing. So a lot of detailing and guidelines have been removed at your level, considering obviously the volume of the course. But trust me, students, when you will study all these same sections, which even if you have studied, then in that case, when you will be studying the same in your final, you will see a lot of detailed guidelines, case laws, circulars, notifications will be covered at those particular levels. So ऐसा मत सोचना that we are covering half information at this particular level. Post 3 years, when you'll be giving your final exam, or 2 years, there would be more detailed discussion of each section. See, ultimately, provisions remain the same, the sections remain the same. What changes is the detailing or the depth or the analysis. Okay. So the best part is to proceed it with the clear clarity of the concepts. जितना क्लियर बेस होगा, सॉलिड फाउंडेशन होगा, उतना बेटर एनालिसिस होगा. So as I was going through here also, okay, इसको मैं एक एग्जांपल से will start. Scrap का मतलब is someone asked, I guess. Yeah. So for the scrap can be anything which cannot be used as such and is the result of a mechanical process. Now, in suppose in manufacturing of car, steel, iron, a lot of stuff goes, right? But certain things are come out which cannot be used as a part of steel, iron, etc. Right? They cannot be used as such. So those things are called scrap, which cannot be used as such in their basic form or the initial form. So that becomes scrap. Or they cannot be used as their initial form, that becomes your scrap. Packing material, etc., are not your scrap. There has been a judgment on that. Gendra, you can ask your query by typing it, or after like half an hour or something, we'll give you the speaking rights and then you can ask. Whatever way you're comfortable. Correct, Sumit. If the amount is below 10 lakhs, then there would be no TCS. But here also you have to remember this 10 lakhs is per motor vehicle. Now, suppose if you purchase from one showroom 5 wagonars or say 7 wagonars, or 5 wagonars also, they will obviously cross 10 lakhs in aggregate. But per motor vehicle it is not crossing, so they will not collect the TCS. If seller is not authorized dealer, he's selling car for more than 10 lakhs, Sangeeta. Yes, I give an example of myself. I am not an authorized dealer, but I am a BMW. I am selling it to another person. Okay. I have to collect TCS because the consideration is more than 10 lakhs, provided I am an individual who in the preceding financial year have a turnover of more than 1 crore or gross receipts of more than 50 lakhs in case of profession. Okay, Sangeeta, I hope your query is also answered. Fuzzy, yours also. Chalo, now let's proceed with the next new section of TCS, which is very important. You can mark it very, very important here, which is subsection 1G. Now, इसमें there has been a lot of debates when Finance Act 2023 came, a lot of discussions, a lot of analysis during the year, what happening since the budget till October. So now there has been one solid conclusion. I hope a question comes. I hope a question does not come if your concepts are not clear. So just let's try to understand this particular section. What does the sixth section says? TCS has to be collected on remittance under LRS of RBI through an authorized dealer or purchase them of overseas stored package. So there are two things here. Whenever I go and foreign remittance में just 1 second, where is my pen? So this particular section has two types of TCS. One, when you are remitting under LRS through an authorized dealer, or when you are purchasing an overseas store package. Now, first of all, LRS क्या होता है? Liberalized Remittance Scheme. आपको देखो बाहर you cannot send money ऐसे. RBI has rules under FEMA and you have to follow those rules. As per that particular rule, you can send money, but I think up to 25,000 US dollar without any RBI permission. You have to send a lot of money in crores and crores, then you have to get RBI permission. Okay. But under liberalized matlab not very controlled, liberalized remittance scheme, if you want to send money outside India, basically if you want to get foreign exchange, or you have to foreign exchange and then you take it that foreign exchange with you, whatever way, either through Western Union or through banks you want to send money, or you want to get it converted into the foreign currency and then take it with you. ये सब आता है LRS में, ठीक है? Where they allow you to do certain remittance without RBI permission, ठीक है? I think 25,000 ही US dollar FEMA में लिखा हुआ, if I'm not wrong, just to give an information. So government, again, to control a lot of foreign remittances or to keep a check on a lot of foreign remittance, they came up with the concept of TCS on foreign remittance. Okay, who will collect the TCS? Authorized dealer will collect the TCS because he is the person who would collect money from me to send it abroad, right? It can be a bank, it can be a foreign exchange dealer. Correct? So they will collect money from me. I can send it through my account, or I can get it exchanged and then take it with me. So when they will collect money from me to give me that foreign exchange, they will collect an additional amount. They will collect an additional amount. So now, what happened in this particular section is the problem that what TCS has to be collected, what rate the TCS has to be collected, and your one more thing, the rate, the time, and the threshold limit. Who will collect it? Is it clear? It is clear that authorized dealer will collect it. When they will collect it? When you're making a remittance. But since there has been a lot of changes in this particular provisions, we have to go it step by step. First of all, TDS, to check करने के लिए कि what is the rate, you have to check the purpose. You have to check the purpose. On the first 7 lakhs, that you remit during the year, there is no TCS. On the first 7 lakhs that you remit during the year, there is no TCS. Once you cross that 7 lakh limit, on the excess amount, the TCS would be collected. ये चीज समझ लो, once they up to 7 lakh, whatever remittance you are making, there is no TCS during the year. Whether you're converting it for foreign travel, whether you're sending it to your child abroad, whether you're sending it to purchase shares abroad, purchase property abroad, up to 7 lakhs, no TCS. The moment it crosses 7 lakhs, TCS would be attracted, but TCS would be attracted on the excess amount. So suppose total remittances is 7 lakh up to a certain degree. Next remittance which you made, the total remittance turned to 9 lakhs. So the TCS would be attracted on 2 lakhs, not on 9 lakhs. This is also clear because whatever additional remittance you're making over and above 7 lakh, TCS would be attracted. So they will take the money for remittance and they will collect extra money from you for the TCS. Who? The authorized dealer. Second thing which comes here is, ma'am, what is the rate? The rate depends upon the purpose and the time when you are sending. Purpose. For what purpose are you sending that money abroad? Yes, I told you it's an LRS scheme where you don't have to give a lot of permission. You don't have to get a lot of permissions. But when you're making an remittance, you have to fill a form and you have to tell for what purpose you're making that remittance. So if the remittance is from the loan which you obtained, for education purpose, so suppose I obtained the loan in India and now I'm giving that loan money to the foreign university. Okay, so if that is also remittance. So if the remittance is for the loan or is from the loan obtained from education purpose, the TCS would be collected at the rate of 0.5%. At the rate of 0.5%. So suppose I took the loan of 10 lakhs and I'm giving it to the university. I want to give it to the Harvard. So TCS would be collected on 3 lakhs at 5%. Simple, 7 lakh, no question. 3 lakh pay 3 lakh pay 0.5%. So they will collect that TCS. So if it is from the loan amount obtained from bank or financial institutions for education. Okay? Next is TCS for education purpose or remittance for education purpose. Not from the loan amount, but in general. Now, suppose my child is studying abroad. I am giving him certain expenditure for education. Okay? Certain remittance so that he can meet his education. I have not taken loan from it. I am giving it from my own savings. Then they will collect TCS at the rate of 5%. If it's from the loan, they know कि हाँ पैसा कहाँ से आया. They will collect TCS at 0.5%. If it's not from the loan, but it's for education purpose, they will collect TCS at the rate of 5%. Now, suppose it is for other purpose. Other purpose is a whole, नहीं other purpose नहीं, पहले medical purpose कर लेते. Now, suppose it's for medical purpose. You're making any remittance for medical purpose. Now, suppose I had to go and get a surgery done abroad. Okay, I converted 10 lakh rupees and I told them that this is for medical treatment. So they will collect TCS from me on 3 lakhs rupees. On 3 lakhs rupees. And this 7 lakh is not per authorized dealer amount. यहाँ पे 7 lakhs is total amount under LRS. अभी तक जहां पे भी I told you it's per person, per pay, per financial year. No, I can exchange the money from one bank, I can exchange the money from another bank, I can exchange the money through foreign exchange dealer, I can remit the money through another bank. This 7 lakh is LRS का limit. ठीक है, इट डज नॉट मैटर कि एक बैंक के साथ मैंने कितने का ट्रांजैक्शन किया. दिस इज नॉट 7 लाख पर बैंक और पर फॉरेन एक्सचेंज डीलर. प्लीज मार्क दिस वर्ड. दिस इज नॉट per bank or per foreign exchange dealer. This is under LRS, under the scheme. Kyunki whenever you're sending the money, I told you, as per the RBI scheme, you have certain limit, which is 25,000 US dollar. The moment it will cross, you have to go to the RBI for permission. This is FEMA का rules. But 25,000 US dollar का limit आप use कैसे कर रहे हो, वो LRS में information आएगा, capital transactions, current transactions, all करके. ठीक है? So I was you on the medical purpose. Now suppose I converted 10 lakh rupees for medical treatment. So on 3 lakh rupees, they will collect a TCS of 5%. But इसके अलावा, if there is any other purpose, and any other purpose can be thousands of any other purpose. It can be say for purchase of shares, it can be say for purchase of painting, it can be say for I'm going abroad and now I need foreign exchange, so it can be for tourism, it can be for anything. Okay? So other purpose. Other purpose में they will collect TCS at the rate of 5% or 20%. अब आप बोलोगे मैम 5 or 20 how? So if the remittances happened till 30th September, they will collect TCS at the rate of 5%. If the remittances happened after 30th September, that is 1st October onwards, 2023, they will collect the TCS at the rate of 20%. अब इसको हम एक बेस्ट तरीका है, एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं और इससे क्लियरली समझते हैं. दिस पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन आई एम नॉट गोइंग वेरी क्विक बिकॉज दिस इज more than revision. I want you to ensure that you get the understanding of this just one second. ध्यान से सुनना. Suppose I'm giving you the remittance detail of Mr. X. On 1st of July, he remitted 3 lakh rupees. Okay, I'll tell you the purpose. On 2nd of August, he remitted 1 lakh rupees. Then on 15th, 16th August, another 2 lakh 50. Then on 18th September, Okay, so these are the figures in front of you. These are the remittances made by a person. On 1st July, he made a remittance for purchasing shares. Okay. Then on another 2nd August, he made a remittance for medical treatment. Then on 16th August, he made another remittance for education purpose. Then on 18th September, he made another remittance for purchasing shares. On 20th September, he made another remittance for purchasing painting. On 19th October, he made a remittance for medical treatment. And on 20th October, he converted this foreign exchange for travel purpose. Okay. Now you have to tell how much TCS would be collected on each transaction. First of all, here no TCS would be collected. Why? Because abhi the remittance is within 7 lakh. So the person LRS में अभी 7 lakh का limit cross नहीं हुआ. No TCS would be collected. यहाँ पे no TCS would be collected. अभी again because 7 lakh नहीं cross हुआ, 4 lakhs हो गया. Then on 16th August, will the TCS would be collected? No, correct. Because यहाँ तक 6.5 lakhs हुआ. No TCS. So purpose कब शुरू होगा? The moment it crosses 7 lakh. So now यहाँ पे 7.5 हो गया. The moment it crosses 7 lakh, how much is this excess? 50,000. So 50,000 पे TCS would be collected. But what amount? At what rate? Shares है 5%. Before 30 September है 5%. So 50,000 पे 5% would be collected. Then 27 September को 1,50,000 पे 5% would be collected again. Then 19th October को 2 lakh पे 5% would be collected. And 20th October को 4 lakh पे 20% would be collected because the purpose is other than education medical. तो उस पे 20%. See, यहाँ पे भी the purpose is other than education medical. 20th September वाला भी other than medical and education है, but it was before 30th September, TCS is 5%, but it was after 30th September, TCS is 20%. So this is how the LRS thing works. That's why I covered it in detail because honestly, I've seen not CA, many CA final students also get it. So please go through it, the example, and let me know if there's any doubt. You can take the screenshot, you want to write it, you can do whichever way it's better for you. Sangeeta, clear? Unikrishan, all the students present online, all clear? So after 7 lakhs, you have to see the purpose. And after 30th September, you have to, and for other purpose, you have to be sure whether it's before 30th September or after 30th September. Yes, very good भूमिका. और financial year देख लेना. But यहाँ पे per pay मत देख लेना. No fuzzy. For medical purpose के लिए देखो after 30th September मैंने या October onwards 19th October के remittance पे 5% ही लगा है. Medical always 5, education always 5, education from loan obtained 0.5. And everything comes, all these rate comes after 7 lakh remittance. Clear fuzzy fuzzy? You just give us the time, we'll give you the speaking rights. Okay? Yes, Pratima, the limit is per financial year. पेंटिंग पे 1,50,000 पे 5% because it was before 30 September. Other purpose 5%. After 30 September, other purpose was 20%. This is one part of 206C 1G clause A. There is clause B also. वन जी क्लॉज बी वो सिंपल सा है, इसमें इतना ज्यादा इशू नहीं है. हाँ, इसमें भी अगर आपका बायर ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, embassies, you will not collect TCS from them. 206C 1G clause B, सी एक साथ है, ठीक है. इसमें क्या है, सिंपल है. Here also TCS is collected on sale of overseas tour package. अब आप बाहर घूमने गए, यू आर गोइंग आउट ऑफ इंडिया, ठीक है. कलेक्टर ऑब्वियसली एनी पर्सन हु इज लायबल टू कलेक्ट. मैंने होटल टिकट्स अलग बुक करी, होटल्स अलग बुक, होटल टिकट्स करी, फ्लाइट टिकट्स अलग बुक करी. आई बुक द फ्लाइट टिकट सेपरेटली, होटल सेपरेटली, एंड ट्रैवल का कार सेपरेटली, सब कुछ अलग अलग किया. It's not a package. Package is when I take a deal from a person where it's a hotel or flights combination, or flights or travel combination, or hotel or eating combination. But there's a combination of at least two things. Then only it's a package. So remember the provision here are for package, tour package, not for general package. Secondly, it's for overseas tour package (OTP), not for domestic tour package. अगर इंडिया में कहीं घूमना है, कोई टीसीएस प्रोविजंस नहीं है फॉर द पैकेजेस, ठीक है. सो ये क्लैरिटी हैज टू बी वेरी मच देयर. अ क्वेश्चन कैन कम फ्रॉम इट. पैकेजेस का यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट ओवरसीज टूर पैकेज, एंड अलग अलग पेमेंट्स कर रही हूँ फॉर होटल, फॉर फ्लाइट्स, पैकेज नहीं, ठीक है. अब व्हाट इज द टीसीएस? TCS would be collected at the rate of 5% if booked before 30th of September. मतलब if the remittance has or the payment has been done before 30th of September, 5%. Flat 5%. कोई ऐसे लिमिट नहीं है. तो सपोज मैंने 3 lakhs का पैकेज लिया, तो दे विल कलेक्ट 5% फ्रॉम मी, 15,000. दे विल कलेक्ट इन हैंड फर्स्ट. तो 3,15,000 का पेमेंट होगा. येस, 15,000 का मुझे क्रेडिट, डेफिनेटली आई विल गेट इट, बट 3,15,000 का पेमेंट वुड बी देयर. देन what has the change come? The change has come from 1st October onwards. 1st October onwards. इसमें क्या चेंज आया है? सिंपल है. Let's see. 1st October 23 onwards, the change is that if you're purchasing an overseas tour package, then after 1st October 2023, then for the package up to 7 lakh, TCS would be 5%, and more than 7 lakh pay, TCS would be 20%. So suppose I book a package of 10 lakhs. I book a package of 10 lakhs. On the first 7 lakhs, they will collect 5% from me, which was there before also. On the first 7 lakh, 5%, which is 35,000 would be collected. And on the next 3 lakhs, 20%, which is 60,000 would be collected. Total 95,000 extra would be collected from me. Total 95,000 extra would be collected from me. यहाँ पे कोई लिमिट नहीं है. बिफोर 30 सितंबर, ये 7 लाख उस 7 लाख से डिफरेंट है. बिफोर 30 सितंबर, इवन इफ यू आर बुकिंग एन ओवरसीज टूर पैकेज ऑफ 50,000 ऑल्सो, देन यू वर रिक्वायर्ड टू गिव 5% एक्स्ट्रा. You were required to give 5% extra as TCS, ठीक है. But October onwards क्या आया? The change came that now up to 7 lakh 5%, 7 lakh से ज्यादा का पैकेज है 20%, more than 7 lakhs का पैकेज है तो एक्स्ट्रा पे 20%, 7 लाख above पे 20, 7 लाख तक 5%. 30 सितंबर से पहले इफ यू यूज टू परचेज पैकेजेस इट वाज जस्ट 5%. तो देना ही पड़ता था. Yes, if you had to travel abroad and you are booking overseas store package, 5% was there. Yes, better approach is to book everything separately, flight separately, hotel separately. But yes, package में student people get deals. So now you have to see whether deal is more attractive or whether depositing certain sum as TCS is more attractive. See, no wonder you will be getting the credit of it for utilizing it. But see how much capital gets blocked. On a package of say 10 lakh, I have to give additional 25,000 as TCS only. So definitely money gets blocked, though you are getting the credit of it, but you have to be careful about how much I have to pay from my pocket for a certain time, or how much cash outflow will happen for a certain time. LRS में सारी फॉरेन एक्सचेंज पेमेंट्स आती हैं. यूनिक्वेशन sorted. 206C, 1GA and 1GB sorted. I actually took time to make you understand this particular section and not as a revision section, because there is always some or the other confusion coming from this section. पर एक बात सुनो, अगर मैं ओटीपी, मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट, अदर पर्पस, सबसे पहले तो सिंपल सा बात है. इफ I am making a tour package from India, then Thomas Cook, who is in India, then only they will collect the TCS ना. बाहर के किसी travel agent से, if I am booking a package, how will they know that TCS has to be collected? No, they will not know. Indian agents को पता होगा ना that the package is happening and they know the TCS mechanism, right? They know they are the eligible deductor. अब कोई मैं फ्रांस में बैठे ट्रैवल एजेंट से कर रही हूँ, हाउ इज ही लाइबल टू कलेक्ट टीसीएस? ही हैज नो नथिंग टू डू विद इंडिया, राइट? ही इज नॉट लाइबल टू कलेक्ट एनी टीसीएस. तो वो ओटीपी वाले कॉन्सेप्ट से क्लॉज बी से आउट हो गया. बट येस, द रेमिटेंस विच आई बी मेकिंग टू हिम वुड कम अंडर क्लॉज ए एंड देन 7 lakhs का लिमिट हैज टू बी सी. The money which I am paying under clause B, please see it practically, would not come under foreign remittance. Why? Because it is for overseas tour package, which I'll be paying probably in Indian currency to a person who is a travel agent in India. If I have to pay it in foreign currency, why would he be collecting the TCS under clause B? Because वो तो बाहर बैठा है, he is not liable to collect TCS under clause B, right? But the money which I'll be sending to him, it is always through an authorized dealer, either through Western Union money transfer that stuff, or through bank. They will see कि वो LRS में 7 लाख का हिट हो रहा है या नहीं. अगर वो 7 लाख से ज्यादा का है तो अदर पर्पस है, तो एक्सेस अमाउंट में 20% they will collect if it is up present scenario के according. So that is how you have to see how the mechanism work in real life. Don't mix both the scenarios. ठीक है? But definitely a question like this comes in mind. Which aspect, Sangeeta, would you like to discuss? But is it clear now? And everyone, Pooja, Sikala, everyone who is listening, एलिजिबल कलेक्टर भी तो देखो. या तो वो रेमिटेंस एलआरएस में होगा, या वो ओवरसीज टूर पैकेज में होगा. Overseas tour package is different. It has a limit. अगर package is more than 7 lakhs, then more than 7 lakhs पे 20%, up to 7 lakhs पे 5%. But if the package would have been booked before 30 September, the entire amount पे it was only 5%. 7 lakhs limit came into picture for 206C 1G clause B after 1st October. और LRS का वो different clause है, दोनों अलग अलग independent clauses है. Clause A, clause B. Please, students, please be specific with the query once. So quickly, quick revision. for 2060, 1G and 1A. A is different, clause A is different, clause B is different. Clause A talks about remittances, which are happening, and it can be through bank, it can be through foreign exchange conversion, it can be through any purpose. You have to fill a form. See, practically, you have to understand how it works. You have to fill a form where you tell the purpose of such remittance. Either you can send it to through bank directly to the other party, or you collect it through foreign exchange and then you travel abroad and give it, right? Whatever way, or you give it to the person, whatever way it is. So at that particular time, the 7 lakh the limit is there where no TCS would be collected. Post 7 lakh TCS would be collected, which will depend upon the purpose. Education hai, medical treatment hai, 5%. From a loan obtained hai of education, 0.5%. Other purpose hai, then you have to see whether it was happening before 30th September, 5%. After 30th September, 20%. If you talk to me in today's financial day scenario, not from the exam perspective, 20%. Simple. 7 लाख से जैसे क्रॉस होगा 20%. ये 30 सितंबर 2023 के लिए है खाली, when there was a lot of to and fro going on, which is for an exam purpose. But if you talk from the financial year 24-25 perspective, it is 7 lakh cross हुआ 20% ये. Simple. So if you will be studying it from the perspective of financial year 24-25, it is 20% the moment it cross 7 lakhs for other purpose. वहां पे कोई 30 सितंबर की डेडलाइन है. This is only because in the preceding year, as in last year, there was a lot of clarifications, confusions coming in. That's why they kept it 30 September से पहले 5%, 30 September के बाद 20%. 2023 only, not in general, okay? And if you're making remittances through overseas store package, it is 5% if the package would have been booked before 30 September 2023. If the package has been booked after 30 September 2023, it is 5% up to 7 lakh, 20% or more than 7 lakh. And this 5% is without any limit. But if I book an overseas package today, same would happen. 5% up to 7 lakh, 20% or more than 7 lakh. Sangeeta, is it clear now? And please, if you have not noted this example, I would request you to note it because this will truly help. सबको clear हो गया? Sure. Now we proceed to the next section, which is given to you in a very, very small detail, which is 2061H. बहुत ही छोटे से तरीके से इसे कवर किया है यहाँ पे. Sale of goods of value exceeding 50 lakhs. This mechanism was introduced through 206C subsection 1H. अभी तक which section we did? Subsection 1, which was sale of goods of certain items, scrap, your alcohol, tendulis, forest produce, and minerals of coal and lignite ore. Then there was 1C, which was for leasing lots or parking lots or toll plaza, etc. Then 1F, which was for sale of motor vehicles. Then 1G, which has two parts, LRS में remittances या overseas store package. Now there is 1H, which is the last one, which is for sale of goods exceeding 50 lakhs. Now, what is this particular section? This particular section says that whenever there is a sale of goods of more than 50 lakhs between two parties individually per financial year, the seller has to collect TCS at the rate of 0.1%. Just 0.1%. Because if you see, guys, there is no mechanism, no check on sale and purchase of goods. There are TDS. There is TDS, right? उसमें भी कहीं पे भी goods पे तो TDS नहीं आया, right? अभी तक of what you studied. Then there is TCS, but it was on certain goods. But government wanted to see between two parties, there can be a high volume transactions. उस पे they were interested in knowing the information, and that's why just a nominal TCS rate was introduced, 0.1%. when the seller and the buyer के बीच में the consideration which is to be collected during the year exceeds 50 lakhs. The consideration, if exceeds 50 lakhs, consideration I've written, not the sale purchase word I've used. The consideration which has to be collected during the year exceeds 50 lakhs. The TCS has to be collected at 0.1% of excess amount. So this is one more section where the TCS has to be collected only on the excess amount. So the sale has been happened for 60 lakhs, TCS would be collected on 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs का 0.1%. So either collector कौन हो गया? Who would be the collector? Seller. Obviously, seller would be the collector, but not any general seller. Seller who in the preceding year has a turnover of more than 10 crores. More than 10 crores in preceding year. If the seller has a turnover of more than 10 crores in the preceding year, then only he will collect the TCS from a buyer from whom the consideration which is received is more than 50 lakhs. So यहाँ पे collector हो गया aggregate sale consideration received during the previous year exceeds 50 lakhs. बट उसके अलावा एक एक्सेप्शन है. एक्सेप्शन क्या है? अगर अब आप सोचोगे, आई नो एवरीवन विल हैव दिस कॉमन क्वेश्चन, मैम स्क्रैप का ही सेल हो रहा है या अल्कोहल का सेल हो रहा है 50 लाख से ज्यादा. Yes, if there is a specific section which covers it, they would be covered in that particular section. So suppose between you and me, there is a sale of Tenduli, so more than 50 lakhs. So I will not collect the TCS under 1H because by default I have a specific section TCS of 206C subsection 1. Similarly, if I'm talking about sale and purchase of goods and I have a TCS ka section under 206C subsection 1F, which is for मोटर व्हीकल्स. मोटर व्हीकल मैंने आपको सेल करा ऑफ 70 lakhs तो एंड मेरा टर्नओवर लास्ट ईयर 10 करोड़ से ज्यादा था, तो आई हैव अ स्पेसिफिक सेक्शन, तो आई विल डिडक्ट टीडीएस अंडर दैट, आई विल कलेक्ट टीसीएस अंडर दैट सेक्शन. Simple. But yes, if I'm not covered under 206C subsection 1 or 206C subsection 1F, then I will be by default covered under 206C 1H if I am an eligible collector. For example, let me give you a best example to correlate is of dealers, car dealers. Car dealers में हमने क्या देखा था? So when Toyota is selling to the authorized dealer, the showroom person, ठीक है, authorized showroom dealer, they were not collecting TCS under 206C subsection 1F. Right? When authorized dealer was selling to the retailer person, they were collecting TCS at the rate of 1%. At the rate of 1% provided it was more than of provided the car being sold or the motor vehicle being sold is of more than 10 lakhs. Okay? Now between them 1F was not applicable. Between Toyota and authorized dealer 1F was not applicable. But guys, 1H can be applicable. Definitely subsection 1H can be applicable if between Toyota and authorized dealer the transaction is of more than 50 lakhs. So if the authorized dealer is paying consideration of more than 50 lakhs and Toyota obviously has a turnover of more than 10 crore in the preceding year, they will collect TCS at the rate of 0.1% on the excess amount of 50 lakhs under 206C 1H. So this is how you have to see the interplay of sections, that okay, this section is not applicable, then this section would be applicable. But first you have to go sequence wise. If a particular transaction is covered under a specific section, you have to cover it under the specific section. Got it? This is how your entire mechanism work. Quickly go through it once. कहीं भी कोई doubt है, just ask. There is a corresponding section also in TDS. Let me see just 1 second how much in detail it is covered at your level. Now, yes, Unicrishan. Once this section got introduced after an year or so, a corresponding section of TDS also got introduced. यहाँ पे who is collecting the TCS? The collector, which is the seller, is collecting the TCS. A corresponding section under section 194Q also got introduced. Now there would be a small khichdi coming in. So let's see. 194Q, which is TDS on purchase of goods. So यहाँ पे what happened? यहाँ पे the buyer would be making the payment, the buyer and the seller. Okay. So if the purchase made during the year, now I'm using the word purchase. वहां पे I've used the word consideration. If the purchase made during the year is of more than 50 lakhs between the buyer and seller, and buyer in the preceding year has a turnover of more than 10 crore in preceding financial year, then the buyer while making the payment or while debit or while credit, whichever is earlier, will deduct tax at rate of 0.1% in excess of 50 lakhs. In excess of 50 lakhs. Same है 50 lakhs का transaction हो रहा है between you and me. One is buyer, one is seller. I will deduct tax under, if I'm the buyer, I will deduct tax. If the purchase is more than 50 lakhs, I will deduct tax at 0.1% while making you the payment. Simple. Now the question comes, who will do who? Both will do? No. There would be no overlapping. So if a particular transaction between parties covered under 194Q, then 206C subsection 1H would not be applicable. If 206C 1H first right is always on tax deduction, because सबसे पहले sections क्या आता है? TDS का आता है. The first right is always on the buyer. If buyer forgets, then seller can collect. So if buyer did not deduct the tax, then the seller can collect the tax. But both would not be applicable. ऐसा ना हो, buyer is also deducting and seller is also collecting. Let me take you through one example here. Let's talk about buyer, seller. ठीक है? Sale has happened of say 52 lakhs. उसी का कंसिडरेशन भी रिसीव हो गया. हाँ, अब यहाँ पे एक और डिफरेंस आएगा. यहाँ पे कंसिडरेशन के ऊपर है एंड वहां पे आपका इज ऑन बेसिस ऑफ परचेज 52 लाख सपोज. ठीक है. लास्ट ईयर टर्नओवर ऑफ बायर is 12 crore. Last year turnover of seller is 9 crore. और सेकेंड केस लेते हैं जिसमें लास्ट ईयर बायर का 9 करोड़ था और सेलर का 12 करोड़ था. एंड थर्ड केस लेते हैं जिसमें दोनों का 12 एंड 15 करोड़ था. ठीक है. आई थिंक उससे मोर क्लैरिटी आ जाएगी. हाँ. First case में sale consider the purchase is of 52 lakhs. Who will deduct the tax or who will collect the tax? Here, in this case, 194Q is applicable because buyer is the one who has more than 10 crore ka turnover in the preceding financial year. So on 52 lakhs, that is on 2 lakhs, he would be deducting the tax at 0.1%, which is just 200 rupees. Okay? Then 2 lakhs. Okay? In this case, 206C subsection 1H would be applicable, right? And the collector would collect tax again, extra 200 rupees from the buyer. Both nominal amount, 0.1% or the excess है वो भी, not of the entire amount. अब इस केस में, since both have a turnover of more than 10 crore, first right is on buyer. Buyer, while making the payment, have to deduct tax at 0.5% or 0.1% of the excess. But if the buyer forgets, or if the buyer somehow neglected it, then the seller can collect. Then the seller can collect. But if the buyer has deducted, seller cannot collect. So here, first priority is 194Q. If not, then 206C 1H. Okay. So the first right is on the TDS wala person. So can I just conclude for both 194Q and 206C 1H, यहाँ पे राइट किसके पास है? बायर के पास ऑफ डिडक्टिंग. यहाँ पे राइट किसके पास है? सेलर के पास फॉर कलेक्टिंग. यहाँ पे भी बायर टर्नओवर शुड exceed 10 crore, then only he would be an eligible buyer. यहाँ पे seller turnover should exceed 10 crore, दोनों का previous year में. Then only he would be an eligible collector. Preceding year में. दोनों का 10 करोड़ से कम है तो नॉट 194Q, नॉट 206C 1H, दोनों नथिंग इज एप्लीकेबल. देन यू हैव टू सी बस स्क्रैप और वो लीव्स वगैरह वाला ट्रांजैक्शन नो. यहाँ पे भी रेट इज 0.1% ऑन एक्सेस ऑफ 50. यहाँ पे भी द रेट इज सेम 0.1% ऑन एक्सेस ऑफ 50. बस यहाँ पे दे यूज द वर्ड परचेज वैल्यू एक्सीड्स. परचेज वैल्यू मतलब एक्सक्लूडिंग जीएसटी वैसे तो, इफ एक्सीड्स 50 lakhs, और यहाँ पे दे यूज द वर्ड कंसिडरेशन. बस इतना डिफरेंस है. यहाँ पे इट वुड बी डेबिट एट रिसीट विच सॉरी क्रेडिट और पेमेंट विच एवर इज अर्लियर. यहाँ पे इट्स ओनली रिसीट. This is the entire difference between 194Q and 206C subsection 1H. Is it clear now? दोनों sections clear? कहीं पे भी कोई doubt है, go through it once and let me know. दोनों sections को ध्यान से सुनो, पढ़ो एक बार. इसमें एक question भी है, let's look at that also, which is your illustration 13. Meanwhile, I'll request the technology team to please give speaking rights to everyone. Illustration 13. And yes, seed color, absolutely correct. Yeah, Pooja, please.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you, Pooja? Very good morning.
I'm fine, ma'am. मैम
Yes.
मुझे इसमें ये जानना था कि जैसे आपने बोला परचेज वैल्यू 50 लाख से मतलब ज्यादा नहीं, तो परचेज वैल्यू में जो फ्रेट वगैरह जो थे वो भी इंक्लूड होंगे या नहीं होंगे?
वो इंक्लूड हो जाता है क्योंकि उस पर भी जीएसटी वो लगाते हैं. यहाँ पर चीज वैल्यू में वो भी आप डायरेक्टली ले सकते हो. बट अगेन इट्स अ वेरी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल ओपिनियन. आई थिंक आप ले सकते हो.
मीन्स मतलब परचेज
वो
तो क्या क्या
इनवॉइस पे लग के आ रहे हैं ना अगर, तो आप ले सकते हो.
इंक्लूड?
ठीक है, गुड क्वेश्चन. और कोई डाउट पूछा?
नो मैम.
Perfect. Yogendra, I think you were raising your hand. You can unmute yourself and ask. Yogendra, are you there?
मैम एक और क्वेश्चन था
हाँ हाँ.
जैसे ये इंपोर्ट पे भी मतलब लग सकता है, जैसे कि ये वाला प्रोविजन जो है 50 लाख वाला,
हाँ.
तो 50 लाख की वैल्यू से
पूजा आपका वॉइस सॉरी
जानना
वॉइस आपका इंटरप्ट हो गया. दोबारा बोलना प्लीज.
चाह रही थी कि जो 50 लाख टैक वाला प्रोविजन है वो क्या इसमें भी लगेगा इंपोर्ट में? जैसे हम बाहर से इंपोर्ट करें 50 लाख से ज्यादा की वैल्यू की गुड्स, तो टीडीएस या टीसीएस के दोनों मतलब कोई भी सेक्शन इनमें से अगर हम ये अट्रैक्ट होंगे इंपोर्ट पे?
तो बेसिकली यू आर सेइंग कि वहां पे आपका रेजिडेंट कलेक्टिव नहीं है, राइट? नहीं, ये रेजिडेंट वाले केस में ही होगा। और कोई डाउट?
नो मैम।
रेजिडेंट कलेक्टिव वाले केस, ठीक है। तो सेलर शुड बी, if I'm talking about 206C 1H, the buyer should be resident. If I'm talking about 206 194Q, the seller should be resident. Then इसमें और भी आई थिंक गाइडलाइंस थी, वो आई थिंक आपके लेवल पे इज नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट। वन मोर डाउट। हाँ सुप्रीति, देखो ऐसा हो सकता है कि परचेज आपने कर लिया और 50 lakhs, बट कंसिडरेशन अभी नहीं मिला प्रॉपर। इफ आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट 194Q, वहां पे जहां ड्यू भी हो गया, यू हैव टू डिडक्ट टैक्स ऑफ 0.1% बिकॉज इट इज क्रेडिट ऑफ पेमेंट विच एवर इज अर्लियर। बट 206C1H में TCS would be collected only when at the time of receipt, and only at the time of receipt. So when the collector is collecting money, at that time he have to collect that additional amount. Only it is at the time of receipt. Either he will उसी में से he'll adjust that amount of whatever his amount is collected by grossing up, whatever way it suits. Sayanto, Malu, Sumit, you have any doubt? Anyone who has joined in, please feel free to raise your hand and ask your queries. This is your this was in fact my last session also with you. So if you want to interact, please any general doubt also you want to discuss, more than welcome. A particular example you want to take or not. Otherwise, I'll take illustration 13, which is interesting. Palak, any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. So let's take illustration 13 then meanwhile. Yeah. So this is very interesting question. So something same would come. Mr. Gupta, a resident Indian in retail business, his turnover for financial year 22-23 was 12 crores. See, the moment figures like this come, your triggering should happen that, oh, 10 crores se zyada hai. This is somewhere either pushing me to 194Q or 206C1H. He regularly purchases goods from another resident, Mr. Agarwal, a wholesaler. The aggregate payments made during the year is 95 lakhs, which is 20 lakhs on 1st of June, 25 lakhs on 12th of August, 22 lakhs on 23rd November, and 28 lakhs on 25th of March. Assume that the said amounts were credited to Mr. Agarwal in the books of Gupta on the same date. So that means credit and payments are on the same date. Mr. Agarwal's turnover for 22-23 was 15 crores. Based on the fact, examine TDS TCS implication and the Income Tax Act. This is something exactly similar to वो जो मैंने केस किया था, buyer का turnover इतना, seller का turnover इतना. Who is the buyer? Gupta ji and or Agarwal ji. Mr. Gupta is the buyer. ये facts clearly see. Don't go over confidence. It's better to give 1 minute to the question more rather than just quickly jumping to the answer. ठीक है? Ask your these questions from yourself. Who is the buyer? Who is the seller? What are the considerations involved, etc. So the buyer is Mr. Gupta and Mr. Agarwal is the seller, right? Both have a turnover of more than 10 crore. Now, what are the repercussions? 194 Q would be applicable, or 194 2060 1H would be applicable. One 194 Q would be applicable. Exactly. But kaise on 1st June they will not deduct the tax. On 12th August they will not deduct the tax because it is 45 lakhs. On 23rd of November, since now it crossed 50 lakhs, so they will deduct the tax at 0.1% of 17 lakhs. At 0.1% of 17 lakhs, which is 20 plus 25 plus 22. So 67 or 17 lakhs pay when they will be due or payment, whichever it is earlier, which is on the same date rather in this case on 23rd November. On 17 lakhs, they would deduct the tax of 1700. Okay. Similarly, on next bill, which is of 28 lakhs, 0.1% of 2800 would be happening on 25th March. ठीक है? कोई doubt? बस simple सा ये मत लिख के आ जाना कि only 194Q is applicable. How it is applicable, just tell them also that. What would be your answer if Mr. Gupta's turnover was 8 crore? All other facts remaining the same. Mr. Gupta, 8 crore ka turnover, that means buyer ka turnover is less than 10 crores. He is out of the scope of 194Q. Let's jump to 206C, 1H. And वहां पे भी same तरीके से tax collection at source would happen. When 17 lakhs का payment has to be collect, जो third payment है वो collect होगा, उसमें 17 lakhs पे 1700 extra has to be collected, and फिर 28 lakhs के payment पे 2800 extra has to be collected. अच्छा, एक चीज बस छोटी सी रह गई यहाँ पे. लेट मी राइट इट हियर ओनली. अभी 206 ए बी वाला मैं यहीं पे लिख. If PAN is not provided, see, if the buyer, if I'm talking about from the TDS perspective, if the pay is not providing you PAN, then 206 AA happens, right? Where I told you it is either the rate or 20%. But when 206 AA happens, it is either the rate or 20%, but there's an exception. When we talk about 194Q, the maximum rate is 5% because 20% on excess बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. So the maximum rate is 5%. So in this case, if the seller is not providing you the PAN, you will deduct the tax at 5%. 5% of the excess. यहाँ पे instead of 0.1%, you will deduct the tax at 5% of the excess. But the corresponding provision in your TCS is that when the collectee does not provide the PAN, which is 206C, when the क्या है इसका 206CCA है CCS. If the collectee does not provide the PAN, then the TCS has to be collected at twice the rate or 5%. TCS के लिए twice the rate of 5% if PAN is not provided of the collectee. But when we talk about 206C, इसका भी exception है 206C 1H, the exception is maximum rate would be 1%. So when I talk about from the default perspective of 194Q, TCS would be collected at 5%. Even if 206 AA says 20% if no PAN is there, but exception is 5% for 194Q. And when I talk about from the perspective of the collectee not providing the PAN, then TCS would be collected at the rate of 1%. At the rate of 1%. Quickly go through the answer once and you will get a clarity. This rate sections, yes, you have to revise. The only thing where how can you revise is just write all the sections at one place, rates at one place. I think Saransh is the Saransh which is provided in your BOS knowledge portal is one of the best example of how to do the revisions. So better to do it through that mechanism. It will help you guys a lot. And instead of, see, that is also a good help, but start making self notes because then only you will start asking yourself the questions in exam, what points have to be checked. This is a very important and a very good point. Any other doubt, I would be very happy to take. Please feel free to ask. If any of your doubt is skipped, you can please ask it Preeti, yes, there has been clarifications by guidelines on return mechanism also. So return mechanism may at your level that is not applicable, but I'll still let you know. Other people, there's no need to get other people don't need to get confused. Return mechanism में ये है, suppose you have collected deducted the tax and then the return happened. So in the next purchase, either you can adjust it. There's no provision of refund. Otherwise, बहुत nominal amount है, hundreds में ही होगा. Because even if it is crossing 50 lakhs, excess amount पे 0.1% ही होता है, तो TCS credit would anyway be given. But हाँ, if return happens next purchase में, you can adjust it, but you will not refund it back to the seller. Whatever TDS is deducted is deducted. So you have two options: either adjust it in the next purchase or just wait and get the credit. Yes, Fuzzy, TDS under 192 will be deducted. If you will go to the revision of the class, or if you will go to the detailed class where we discussed this, that when the employer has to deduct tax under section 192, he will ask the employee at the beginning of the year which scheme you want to take. You want to take 115 BAC or you want to take your old scheme. Whichever employee opts, as per that scheme, the tax has to be deducted. The employee cannot change the scheme for the purpose of 192 again and again. Yes, if he want to change, he can change it at the time of filing his own return. So, but if the employee does not tell which scheme he has to follow, by default, it would be 115 BAC. By default, it would be 115 BAC. But yes, the income should be more than basic exemption limit, then only 192 is attracted. Clear? No. TDS TCS credit is not received in cash. It is there in your record with the government. And when you will be filing your return of income, as an SSC, you will be filing your return of income. Whatever credits you have as TDS or TCS, that would be adjusted with your total tax liability. If your total tax liability is less than the credits you have, you will get a refund after filing the return. Sangeeta, if you're studying it for the first time and if your exams are due, start with heads of income, simple one by one. Then go to deductions, section by section. Write all the important sections. See, I will not discourage and say that you don't need to remember the sections. For deductions, you should know the sections. For TDS, you should know the sections. Otherwise, there will always be a confusion. And only pays. Start it step by step. As if you're doing 4 sections, do it properly with understanding, notes, questions, everything. Then move ahead. Then come back, then move ahead. This is how you can complete it. Okay. Preeti, I hope your doubt is also clear. Fuzzy, I hope your doubt is also clear. Ruhani, any doubt? इसके अलावा there was advance tax again due to shortage of time we could not cover. Sorry. Any doubt? Anything you want to discuss? See, don't worry. I understand and I acknowledge that income tax is extremely voluminous, no doubt. And it will be more voluminous when you come to final. But if you will go step by step, aspect by aspect, and start relating the provisions also. Like when we were doing TDS also, for example, we were relating so many provisions. कि 194C होगा, J होगा, or 2060 1H होगा, या 1F होगा. That's how you relate it. Start asking questions. I understand इस केस में बहुत hypothetical scenarios भी होते हैं. ऐसा हो गया तो कैसे? Come to थोड़ा ground level and start discussing it between yourself. That basic scenarios, questions, do all illustrations, do all questions which are there in your study material, RTPs. Confidence would boost. And one thing, make sure whenever you're attempting the question, don't just come to the answer directly. First, see how it should be done. Then only you will be able to understand and bridge that gap. Most of the time, what we do, we read the question, we read the answer, and we think, okay, we understood. But we don't analyze the question. We don't understand how we have to start with. So start making a habit of coming to the answer once you analyze and do the question yourself. Yeah, Pooja.
मैम
You want to? हाँ जी.
TDS TCS के प्रोविजंस है ये मतलब इसमें एसएससी चाहे किसी भी रिजीम में जाता हो मतलब कोई भी रिजीम अडॉप्ट करे तो दोनों में मतलब ये TDS TCS मतलब
लगेगा,
इसमें
एग्जैक्टली लगेगा. हमें पेई या कलेक्टी के regime से मैटर नहीं करता until unless it is section 192 where employee will tell which regime he is following. Otherwise it does not matter कि वो the other person के hand में taxable भी है या नहीं है, regime क्या है या उसके पास कितना सारा tax है. It does not matter to us. We have to do our responsibility as collector or deductor and that's it. ठीक है. यस, उसी को रिलैक्सेशन देने के लिए अभी हमने थोड़ी देर पहले प्रोविजंस पढ़े थे लाइक 197 एंड 197A आर देयर, मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ लॉसेस a deductee or a collectee might have, but that is a different scenario. Otherwise from the deductor collector point it is not our headache कि वो उससे taxable किस head में कर रहे हैं या उसको tax कर भी रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे हैं या कोई exemption ले रहे हैं. Not important to us. Only when it is for salary, then that time we have to understand what are the exemptions, what are the deductions of the employees. If he has given us that information, what is the provision he wants to follow for the tax calculation. Okay. I think same was the question of Ruhani also. Both the questions are answered, right? So I guess all that's it. Sure. So wishing you all the very best. Don't just don't make yourself underconfident because of the syllabus. Step by step करना. कहीं पे भी issue होगा, we all are here to help you. Okay. So thank you so much. All the very best and looking forward to meet you guys again in final also. Thank you.
थैंक यू मैम
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sayanto. Good day, guys. Thank you.